Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
All right, now we're back at it here on the Investigative Journal on this Thursday, November 9th, 2017 day on our calendar, just to keep things straight. But really, it's actually Friday, because tomorrow is Veterans Day, which is a holiday, and so we'll be celebrating a 3-day weekend in America. What can we do in America in 3 days? Well, you know something? Today I want to talk about a bunch of things. But, oh, by the way, it's Greg Anthony. And you can go to greganthonysjournal.wordpress.com, and you can get shows going back well over 12 years regarding what I call the Vatican-led New World Order. Also, there's a donate button there, so I'm always looking for people to help out because we're a listener-sponsored station and could use your help. So I've been running a pledge drive all the time. Because it's not, something, it's crazy, but people donate more to the crazy sites that don't really give you much truth than they do to these. And somebody said, well, your site's been crazy. You're talking about time traveling. And I said, well, you know something? There's a message behind it. And if you don't believe me, why do you believe all these other stories? Like the one we're going to talk about today. The frozen civilizations of Antarctica includes reptilians, a disclosure inevitable. Okay, we're going to get into that. And if people believe that, and I know there's more people that believe in reptilians than believe that the Jesuits are the root of all evil and are behind the New World Order. So you get your priorities mixed up, some people. But I want to start out today with a story. We've covered pedophilia and the pedophilia rings for years from a very serious point of view by tracing certain stories of kids that have been kidnapped, and we did that with investigator Jim Rothstein and several other guys that we've had on the show over the years, and it's a serious problem. And all those kids on the milk cartons don't just go missing because they walk away and they can't find their way home. But this occult worship, Hollywood's Other Dirty Secrets story I want to talk about. Everyone knows of, but no one talks about it. Well, everybody's talking about it now. And the story sent to me by Buck, calls himself Buck Rogers of theWakingTimes.com. I bet you that's not his real name, but who am I? I use Greg Anthony. Well, that's my middle name. It's my real name. But it's got a picture here of Kevin Spacey giving some really occult symbols, with the making a circle with your thumb and index finger. Then, of course, the two fingers over the one eye and over the nose. And there's many others, and the avalanche of these revelations about this perversion and predatory sexual underbelly of Hollywood and the entertainment industry is way overdue. It's been there for time, since Hollywood has been in existence, and it's always been an open secret of sorts, not talked about in public very much. And the old thing is, if you want to go to Hollywood, you better be prepared, females, to sleep with the producers. It's been going around for years, but nobody seemed to talk about it, right? Maybe people did that so they didn't want to ruin their careers, but now it seems with Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, and others coming forward, this is really blown way out of the water here, and everybody's talking about it. But the real key, then I heard an advertisement today while I was driving, and a woman was commenting that we shouldn't just talk about rape and sexual predators in Hollywood. It's all over. It's in the military. It's in every area of life. So here we go. So suddenly a bunch of people are feeling empowered to speak out about it. And according to Buck Rogers, he says, but what if pedophilia and sexual harassment of women in entertainment is only a symptom and not the actual disease? And below the surface, now we've touched on, I'm talking now, I've touched many times on the occult in Hollywood and how they talk about how they put subliminal messaging and even Disney movies. We're going to get into that a little bit today. I'm not going to play anything. You can go Google subliminal messages in Disney movies, and you'll see some crazy stuff. And it goes in and out. But people really don't notice it. But the question becomes, what did they do it for? And I'm going to get into that in a minute. But Buck Rogers says, just below the surface, hidden in plain sight in Hollywood, is the overwhelming influence of the occult and the esoteric schools of ancient black magic. It's always been present in the industry because those who seek power in our world have long recognized that television, film, and music are the most efficient and important roadways into the public psyche and collective conscious of a person, of people, of kids. Many have warned us about this for years, composing volumes of books and videos gathering evidence of this bizarre conspiracy. Hollywood is, as David Lynch titles it, an inland empire, a kind of covenantal city-state of its own, in its own religion, including all the trappings of neophytes, acolytes, servants, agents, star saints, hierophants, hierarchies, and the holy sites. It is a veritable pole of initiatory esoterica where the holy sites and the rites of Hollywood are not the altars of mainstream religion, but another ancient religion ultimately summed up in the epitaph of the mysteries. The ancient mysteries comprise the competing religious practices of the empires of old, but the one empire that seems to have achieved the most appropriate association with Hollywood is Babylon, the gate of the gods, and that was written, that paragraph was J. Dyer writing that. Clues appear in the form of symbols and the use of symbolic set and setting in order to introduce occult practices into the subconscious. Subliminal messages packed with sexual innuendo, including veiled pornographic images and reproductive anatomy, are vaguely concealed in films. Music videos are laden with satanic imagery and overtly demonic themes. Now, in this one, there's a video out there. It's pretty good. It was about 11 minutes, and I watched it earlier. And this is a kind, and what he did is he put a compilation of many, and there's many more, many of Disney's children's films, and talking about all the satanic symbols in those Illuminati symbols in the Disney movies. And the premise in the video is that, is this what you want your children to watch? And are they being, what is the, so if you see the 666, you'll see sex in many, just flash on the screen, the word sex. You'll see the hand signals of the Illuminati for Satan, many other things. And these are in movies like the Mermaid, the Aladdin, and the Lion King is full of them. And most every Disney cartoon, you can find something in there. Now, why are they doing this? The question becomes, is this messaging to their fellow Satanists, or is this subliminal messaging that they want to put into the psyche of kids watching it? And does it have an effect on children? Now, I grew up watching Disney movies, and look what happened to me. So you got to ask that yourself. I mean, if you don't see it, is it going to affect you? All right, some people will say, yes, it gets into your consciousness. Okay, so go to that and ask yourself those questions. And then there's a video out there called The Illuminati Symbolism in the Music Industry, which I've watched before. And it's chosen, I mean, it's amazing when you start watching these groups. The symbols of the one eye is, of course, the same single eye that watches from atop the symbolic pyramid, a symbol of our money, and scattered throughout the political world. You see that. There are so many instances of actors, musicians, and pop stars bringing photographs with one eye covered that it defies the definition of coincidence, doesn't it? And so that gives you a little bit to think about when you're turning on the next Disney movie for your children. And that's only a parental decision that you have to make. So you will have to, and I'm looking at a compilation here, pictures of All these actors and actresses and music people giving the one eye symbol. It's incredible. Hollywood has its own hidden language, folks, that is stunningly pervasive, and stunningly pervasive in the entertainment media, and it has recurring themes applied over again in new context. There is so much to that. It's incredible when you really start looking at this. There's so much to it that it cannot be ignored, says Mr. Buck Rogers, but you don't see it until you've been introduced to it. Once you see through, you see it everywhere. The themes are applied in so many productions that it utterly defies coincidence, which means there must be some greater unifying message or purpose to it all, isn't it? Based on the type of symbols, and when looked at in the historical context of esoteric religious movement, Egyptian theology, Babylonian mythology, Satan worship, and so on, Hollywood and the movie industry is clearly working to serve a particular ideological movement. Now, they always say that the Jews controlled Hollywood. I believe it's the Jesuits. And, we've done stories on how the Jesuit theater was controlled during the time of Shakespeare. And we know, if you look at the history of the Jesuits, they're very, very instrumental in the entertainment world, even in the music world, going back to Beethoven and all this period of time. And Mozart, who might be a Jesuit creation, many people believe that he never wrote those great pieces of music, and they were written by a number of different anonymous writers. And also Shakespeare, not being written by Shakespeare, but a number of writers. Some claim that it was in a Jesuit school in Rome where they were creating a lot of this stuff. They've always known they can control the masses, the Jesuits. And if you look at their history, Jesuitism in the cinema, in entertainment, music, theater, etc., you'll see many of them were instrumental in certain things in Hollywood when it first came to being. And so the Jesuits play a big role in this, and you know that at the top levels, the Vatican and Jesuits worship Satan. And that's Lucifer, we've proved it, by even their own words when they start their Easter Mass. And it's, if you know what the Latin translation is, it's worshiping Lucifer. So they even tell you. So why don't people believe that? And why do they believe things that we're going to read regarding the reptilians, and then somebody has the audacity to email me and say, Greg, we do not believe you created this crazy time machine, and you go back and go, oh, really? But you'll believe there's reptilians, and you won't believe that the Jesuits are at the top of the pecking order here and are Satanists, or the Vatican as well, even when they tell you. So something's not right. So I say to you, why shouldn't you believe me when I tell you I go on a time travel? Okay, you can figure that one out. The worship of, now the themes are applied in so many productions, like I said, it's amazing. Babylonian mythology, Egyptian theology, Satan worship, and so on, they're clearly doing this for some reason, right? The worship of dark and satanic forces, says Mr. Buck Rogers, has historically been linked to human sacrifice, pedophilia, sexual perversion, ego worship, celebrity worship, fragmentation of individual psyche, and controllable parts, mind control, and corruption of the soul. And now you're seeing all this perversion come out in the open, right? The use of the occult and its symbols is a mythology employed to weaken the power of an individual and to create psychological slaves. It is a serious form of mind control. While there certainly is reason to applaud the growing tidal wave of truth about Hollywood, one can hope that these revelations ultimately go all the way to the core of the depravity in Hollywood, and that we can finally liberate our culture from these dark influences. Okay, so there's a lot of articles you'll find in this, so have fun going through the internet and looking at that. And sometimes I'm looking, there's not many comments on this, but I like to look at the comments, and one person says, sexual magic is about doing in the same manner as in the hidden spirit world. Does it work? I cannot see it doing anything. Okay, I should know. It happened to me. And no sour, it's all about energy. Perhaps it is more. an exchange, says another person. Not many comments. Let me see if I missed something here. Did I miss anything? Well, here's one. I did miss this one. Illuminati symbolism is about as handy as a diaper rash, the Clintons, or genital herpes. Okay. This stuff has been going on for hundreds of years, and it's just now getting its attention. It didn't matter before, and everybody knew about it, and now it gets trotted out as the worst thing ever. Well, it is pretty bad there, sir. Wealthy people flashing gang symbols, nothing, all of it's there. Yeah, that's what he says. Okay, so those not too many comments on that article. So, Hollywood is full of that. We know it. And now you're just seeing it on the news. We know it's rampant. Pedophilia is rampant in the Vatican. You're seeing it all over. So what are they doing? They're saying maybe that they're telling you that there's so many people out there. What is their goal? Maybe they want to say, well, maybe this is normal, And I say, how does Kevin Spacey live with himself and these people? I don't know. I don't think it's normal. But anyway, people will still go to the box office. People will still not really look for these things. They see it. I mean, it's so obvious in the movie or in the music industry now. I mean, not only is the music terrible in many cases, but the symbolism is even worse. So, okay, we almost made it through a half hour with that story, but we got about, let me see here, 8 minutes left, so I'm going to get right in. Well, let me talk a little bit about yesterday's show. I did get a lot of comments, and the show basically was, I started out analyzing a lot of different things about what's going on in the world, what's happened in the world in the past, and what could possibly be in the future. And then in the second half hour, told you I was, the night before, I had taken a trip to 2060. Now, I received a lot of emails regarding that, and many of them said, Greg, it was really a good show. We really had fun listening. Other people said, what are you trying to do? I didn't get many people that really, the story is, you can take it for what it's worth, but it's highly, could you say, maybe did he really do it? I'm going to tell you that time travel is possible. And I believe it totally. And I told you I went on that trip. And so if you can not believe that, but yet not believe, you believe in these reptilian stories, then something's amiss. Because this one I'm going to read, I bet you more people, and I know because I look at the internet, and there's so many people that believe in these reptilians. I have a friend, very intelligent, and believes in reptilians, but also believes in the Jesuits, so got to give her credit for that. There are many people that won't buy the truth about what we talk about in this show. And, I remember people didn't believe me when I said Slatch Grobnik was the story about Slatch Grobnik building a replica of the Roman Colosseum in Kansas cornfields so that we can bring the Illuminati there, and they're going to be the gladiators and we're going to be the spectators. Now, nobody believed that. I'm telling you, it happens. It's going on as we speak. Now, this article is probably believed by way more people than somebody that will get a factual story, like I told the story of Alpern v. Vatican Bank, a case regarding the Vatican involvement in the genocide of Croatian people, and also priests being involved in the actual genocide and killing people. And we had even, and in that case, CIA agent came forward and verified this stuff, the money laundering through the Vatican, and talked about the trucks full of gold and all of the violence that was involved with the Vatican. And you know what? The Court of Appeals, the Ninth Circuit Federal Court decided that the Vatican Bank doesn't do business in the United States. And it shows you how the cover-up there is on this story. And people still won't believe it. They think they're a bunch of old priests that are just our great educators. It's crazy. But many people are going to believe this story. And I thought I would just show you what's out there just because it's so crazy. Now, Dan Flynn writes these things, and I've looked. He's one of the best at science fiction stuff here that people buy as real. Now, watch what'll happen. The next day I'll wake up. I take my dogs out at 5 in the morning because they're puppies and I'm training them. Watch, I get confronted by a tall 12-foot reptilian. Then I will come back and say, okay, sorry, Mr. Flynn, you were right. But anyway, he dwells, we're getting maybe into 3 minutes to the break. So let me just start this, and we'll really continue it in the second half. Dan Flynn, he had to dwell into the latest news of, this is what the article said they sent me, of what's going on or may be going on in Antarctica. Now, this is interesting because we have talked many times about what really is Antarctica, and it's not on the bottom of the globe because there is no globe. This guy is talking about there has to be. He's going to get into Mars and the big fight they had there 500,000 years ago. So you know that there's something wrong here. And people, most people believe the Earth is a globe and that there are planets like that. So people are sorely misinformed. And Antarctica basically is what we call a huge piece of landmass that surrounds the entire flatness of this Earth with an ice wall that goes all the way around us like we're a record player. And the middle of the record where you put the spindle in is the North Pole. So in any direction, you're going to get to the South Pole. And then once you get over that ice wall, it just keeps going and going and going. And that's why they have this treaty that no one can, outside of the, military, can go into Antarctica, and it's against the law to research anything there. They're hiding something. It's very obvious. 60 countries or more are involved in this treaty, most of the big countries of the world, but yet they're fighting each other all the time. Yeah, give me a break. But he says that, yes, we're going to go to Antarctica, so let's play along here with Dan Flynn. A flash from frozen civilization, he says. Frozen giants, reptilians, greys, aliens, abductions. He tries to gather as much intrigue as possible into this article. Secret space program whistleblower. Okay. Gary Goody. He's the guy has revealed more startling information about Antarctica and its history as an extraterrestrial refugee colony established roughly 60,000 years ago. Now that's going to not sit good with a lot of Christians who don't believe that the world is that old. But anyway, many people do. More people believe this guy, Corey Goody, Dan Flynn, whoever these guys are, than anybody that talks about, could the Earth really be flat? No. Could the Christians have a right on the money when they say the Earth isn't as old as 60,000 years? No. They're way, way off. They're back into the Dark Ages with their thinking. And this one, he searched that the alien refugees, this is Corey Goody, he's a secret space program whistleblower. Yeah, okay. Found advanced builder race technologies there that were created over 1.8 billion years ago. So we're going pretty far back. I guess, is it too dangerous with my little go-kart time machine to go that far? And I can report back to see if there actually is more than 5,000 years or whatever. I'm not particularly, I think it's 4,000 or 5,000 years, that the Christian Bible talks about. Can I do that, or would I not make it back? Oh, that's a scary thought. But anyway, we'll be back. We will be back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal, unless I decide to go time traveling. See you in 3 minutes.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet. or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn, the Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Okay. Ooh, that was a quick 3 minutes, and during that 3-minute break, I did receive an email, 2 emails. And this is Greg Anthony of the Investigative Journal at greganthonysjournal.wordpress.com. Go there and get shows regarding what I call the Vatican-led New World Order. And this one email talked about the Disney movies and said, Greg, thanks for bringing that up. I am going to start looking a little closer at what I let my child watch. Okay. Then I received one from on a completely different subject. Said, Greg, you used to talk about the Alamo ministry a lot. You haven't recently. And I said, well, listen, the reason is not because I'm ignoring them, but I thought they needed some privacy after the death of their pastor, Tony Alamo. And I will, though, in the future, get in touch with some of the people I know there. And I think I'll do that in the next couple of weeks or so. So I haven't been ignoring. I just felt they needed some privacy after they lost their pastor. Okay, emails out of the way. Here we go. So we're back to Antarctica. And you know my views about it, but I want to look at these because I believe there's more people that believe in these reptilians than don't. And here we go. So this is kind of where they get some of their information. And we're talking about the frozen civilizations of Antarctica includes reptilians. And this guy, space program whistleblower Corey Goody, says these things. He said equally intriguing in his claim that some of the extraterrestrial refugees are still alive today in the chambers there somewhere, located inside a 30-mile mothership buried under 2,000 feet of ice below Antarctica's Ross ice shelf. In Goody's February 21st, so not long ago, 2017, Cosmic Disclosure TV episode. How do these guys get TV shows with all this garbage they write? I mean, I should get one too with all the garbage I say. He stated that he continues to receive briefings from a United States Air Force-run secret space program about the excavations in Antarctica being conducted by archaeologists, which began in 2002. So, in an earlier article, it was described by Goody. He said about the USA briefings and what he had encountered during a January 2017 visit to Antarctica with an inner Earth civilization called the, let me see if I get this right, Amshar. In the Cosmic Disclosure episode, Goody provides more details about graphic depictions of what he personally witnessed in Antarctica. He describes the extraterrestrials as pre-Adamites, who were originally from Mars and a super-Earth Maldek, which remains new from the asteroid list. Okay. During their long history, he says that the inhabitants of Mars and Maldek fought a series of high-tech wars back when Mars was a moon of Maldek. Approximately 500,000 years ago, these wars came to a climactic end with Maldek being obliterated. Maldek's remains hit Mars from such force that the latter's surface cities on one side of the planet were totally destroyed and most of its atmosphere was lost. However, at the time of the catastrophe, our moon was another satellite of Maldek, but it was artificially created with the vast living areas in the interior, as Goody has previously described. The pre-Adamites inhabited the moon. The pre-Adamites inhabited... The dog is getting my headphone wires all tangled up. The pre-Adamites inhabited the moon for approximately 440,000 years, and some point during this period, according to the information received by Goody, the moon was moved into its present orbit around the Earth. Eventually, another conflict forced the pre-Adamites to the moon, and they had quickly to move to a nearby Earth. They chose Antarctica to rebuild their civilization, due in part to the existence of ancient builder race technologies which were still functioning, as Goody explained. Now, why would they pick Antarctica? I mean, it's so cold there. Why wouldn't they go to, like, Miami? California? Maybe they are. Okay, Greg. Maybe they are in Hollywood, okay? Say it. Pre-Adamites inhabited the moon. Oh, boy. Eventually, another conflict forced the pre-Adamites to the moon. Did I read that already? They chose Antarctica. Then these pre-Adamites end up on the moon for a period of time, and then somehow they ended up getting chased off the moon. There were some attacks that occurred, and after they had fled, but their craft were too damaged. They left the solar system or make it to another planetary sphere, so they ended up here. So since they had to crash land on Earth, they decided that they would go to the one continent that still had working ancient builder race technology that was 1.8 billion years old. The pre-Adamites only had 3 motherships to use to establish their new colony on Earth after a crash landing in Antarctica. Boy, he's got a kind of an artist's rendition of these people. Okay. One looks like my Uncle Bill after a long night of imbibing, but okay. It was the technology to these motherships that gave the pre-Adamites hope that they could rebuild their civilization. Well, they had the technology that they had on these types of crafts with them. This technology was interesting. He says that's all the technology they had. So they had to cannibalize and repurpose that technology from the spacecraft once they crash landed. And there were three that were extremely large. They were motherships. This is where the interviewer had some corroborating information to share from another whistleblower, Dr. Pete Peterson, about the size and location of the discovered motherships. How come I can't find these things? You know? And independently, he says they're going to announce that they found the mothership. He only knew about one, a mothership that was 30 miles wide, mostly circular in shape, that's been found under the ice. That's a pretty big ship. Goody describes the pre-Adamites who settled Antarctica. Here they go. This is quite funny. They range 12 to 14 feet tall. Now, how come they don't play in the NBA? They could have they don't have to jump. They could just take the ball, catch it, and look down on the basket. But then the NBA'd have to raise the basket to, 20 feet or something? And what about poor Shaq would be a midget in the whole thing. He'd be a point guard at 7 feet. He'd be towered over, twice as tall, these guys. They range 12 to 14 feet tall. They'd have to have their own league. It wouldn't be fair. They have elongated skulls. They were spindly, thin. Well, a lot of those athletes in the NBA are very thin. I'm not saying they're pre-Adamites. Don't get me wrong. This suggests that I'm just saying they could fit in to the basketball teams. This suggests that the pre-Adamites were likely the prior inhabitants of a lower gravity planet like Mars, which would facilitate gigantism. Oh, really? I don't even know if Mars exists. I know it doesn't, so I don't know where these guys come from. And most people believe it, though. This suggests that the pre-Adamites were likely inhabited. Yeah, we read that, Greg. After spending over 400,000 years on the moon, with its even lower gravity field, the pre-Adamites may have naturally increased in body height to finally result in their spindly 12 to 14 foot structure on Earth because of the stronger gravity. Now, how many times have I told these people gravity does not exist? The pre-Adamites. Okay. A lot of holes in this article. I think, I don't know why people won't believe my time travel story when they can believe this stuff. On Earth, because of the stronger gravity, this meant that in terms of geopolitical power, the pre-Adamites would have to rely on the advanced technologies they had access to, the most advanced of which were located in Antarctica. Now they tell me that's why they went there. The pre-Adamites soon needed hybrids to act as intermediaries between themselves and the rest of the Earth's population. While the pure-blood pre-Adamites remained in Antarctica, still to this day, close to their advanced technologies and mothership, they can't leave the mothership. The hybrid pre-Adamites would be used to rule over humanity in the different colonies established around the planet, as Goody explained. Oh. They had created hybrids because they could not operate in our environment very well. And they created hybrids of them and the humans that were here on Earth. All of the main pre-Adamites that were pure blood were down in Antarctica. there was a group of these pre-Adamites, of this pre-Adamite bloodline, that was in Central America, South America region, and there were another completely different bloodline group, both royals, in Asia and Europe. This is consistent with what the ancient Egyptian historian Manetho tells us about pre-dynastic times. The gods directly ruled over Egypt and then placed their offspring, hybrids or demigods, in the leadership positions. Oh, now we're getting somewhere, right? Okay. Do you want to take a break from this? No, let's finish it. We only got about 12 minutes. So let's finish it real quickly here as we move on. As I said, let's the similar scenario. Now, there's a picture I'm looking at here. It's a plaque of a pharaoh and Queen Nefertiti around 1352, 1336 BC. And they have very long heads. Okay. The similar scenario is described in the Sumerian king list, which suggests that these historic documents are not mythical accounts of prehistory, but accurate historical records. The pre-Adamites, however, were not the only extraterrestrial race active on Earth 60,000 years ago, according to Goody's sources. He says that among them was a non-human-looking race, the Reptilians. I knew we were going to get to them, who quickly emerged as the pre-Adamites' primary rival in dominating planetary affairs. So we get the pre-Adamites and the Reptilians now. Goody described the conflict between them and how to begin with. The pre-Adamites having the upper hand due to their advanced technologies. However, the Reptilians would slowly gain ascendance after a series of smaller catastrophes that were a precursor to an even more destructive geological event that was to come. Apparently, these pre-Adamites have been in conflicts with the Reptilians for a while. These pre-Adamites, they stated, were not good guys at all, but they were some sort of conflict with the Reptilians and had actually kept the Reptilians in check on the Earth during that time that they had crash landed here. There had been a couple... Where did these Reptilians come from? There had been a couple other smaller catastrophes that happened where they had lost their power, and the Reptilians also find an opportunity to come back in a moment of weakness. During the major catastrophe about 13,000 years ago, again, this would be in conflict with Christian thinking, but there's many more people that think the other way, so we got to bring up both sides, right? And you make up your mind. The Antarctica continent was flash frozen during a sudden pole shift, which cut off the pre-Adamites' outposts around the world from their main base of power. Sphere being alliance. Now the Reptilians would become dominant in the planetary affairs. But after these cataclysms that occurred on Earth, the pre-Adamites and the Reptilians sort of had a truce or a treaty. And after that point, the Reptilians pretty much controlled all of Antarctica, and the pre-Adamites had zero ability to get access to their ancient technology, their libraries, etc. Everything was down there. Hybrids of the pre-Adamites were able to escape the catastrophe in their global outposts, but those of the pure bloodline were stuck in Antarctica in their giant motherships. Are they still there? The pre-Adamite civilization controlled the entire planet. What little resources they had, they were able to control the planet. And after this last cataclysm occurred, none of the survivors, pre-Adamite survivors, had access to their technology. So we mentioned the group that was in Asia, pre-Adamite group, and there was another one in South America, Central America. They could no longer visit or communicate with each other. They were separated. The elongated skulls found in South and Central America trace back to the pre-Adamite hybrids who ruled over their colonies in these areas. In South and Central America is where they had set up most of their enclaves. And they had been set up around other pre-Adamite structures that were now destroyed because of the cataclysm. Okay. There were huge earthquakes that basically liquefied the ground and a lot of the buildings. Massive buildings. They had just fell apart and they sunk into the ground. They were running the hemisphere. They were mixing their genetics with some of the indigenous people of South and Central America. That's why we have elongated skulls beings that have a different colored skin but different genetic mix. The two major pre-Adamite colonies, one spanning Asia and Europe, while the other encompassed South and Central America, viewed each other in a competition between bloodlines, which continues today through the major factions of the Illuminati. I knew these people were strange, and they had always had some sort of competition between those two bloodline groups, even before the cataclysm. The whole bloodline of these Cabal and Illuminati-type people, they trace their bloodlines through these pre-Adamites. If we accept the Reptilians are another extraterrestrial group that exercise great influence from behind the scenes through their own hybrids, then we can see that the Earth's hidden rulers are divided into distinct factions with a long history of conflict stemming from these rivalries. Again, I ask, where do these people get this stuff? And then I love to look at some of the comments, because then a lot of people read this and believe these things. I don't think this person. Too bad for you. You have no evidence. That would be cool if there was, but there is none. So it's just words that mean nothing to Corey. Good. America's version of Harry Potter. He doesn't believe him either. I found thousands of pieces of evidence over the years that this guy then makes fantasy over real fact. In Missouri, another guy says, I see people with black eyes like a bird. They seem to be afraid of me because I'm Christian. It's like someone has to be a non-Christian before they are permitting to do something. And then someone responds, black-eyed people are demon-possessed. That's why they are afraid of you. You have the light of the Jesus in your eyes. They were dead bodies. They are not hibernating or in stasis. No one reuses dead alien bodies. Okay, that's another comment. What do you think you're eating when you eat chicken nuggets? It's not chicken. Oh, boy. Notice why... Okay. I won't even read that one. Okay, so we got a number of people didn't believe him, and then there's a whole bunch of others that did. I can't read them all. But there's a lot of people that look at these articles, and I guess it's good entertainment. Get your mind off what's going on in the world as far as, the boring stuff that you hear every day from Washington, or, that's why I enjoy going behind the scenes and trying to get the real story of things on this show, like really what happened during the Revolutionary War and what happened before that. And, as we go farther back and farther back and farther back, it gets a little bit more difficult to figure what really went on. But there are clues, and I tell you, the best place you could probably learn a lot is in the Vatican Library, the vaults, where they got all their hidden material underground that's protected better than Fort Knox. And I imagine they've got a lot of information that we don't. And I think they use it to their benefit and to our misfortunes. And that's really the first sign, how can they be a religious organization or Christian if they're not transparent? And it should be obvious they're not. In many, many ways. They're not transparent, and that's the Vatican and the Jesuits with their finances. They're not transparent with how they deal with all of these pedophilia cases. They're not transparent in their roles in orchestrating wars and things like that. And they're not even transparent in telling you that they do not worship God and they're not Christian. I mean, this is a real sinister, deceptive organization. And all these tentacles feed right down into Hollywood and all of these areas because they have taken control of things. And you will find that in every walk of life, they'll have something to do with it. And no better place to look than NASA and how they even control what you think you live on. And what you've been taught since you were a kid before you even had time to think on your own. They're putting into your head, you got all these crazy Illuminati symbols and all these satanic symbols and even all the cartoons you watch, all the Disney movies, all the other music industry things that kids watch, and then they realize that they got you. They got to control. They can control through entertainment as well as education. What you're going to think, how your mind actually works, and how they can twist it in a sense and use things against you and use this kind of, there's so much coming out now about the occult. I think they're going to try to say that it's really normal, and anybody who's not like them isn't normal. Could it be they're doing it that way? I have no idea, but that's what it seems like. And pretty soon they'll say, well, there's more people like us than you, so you guys are the ones that are going to have trouble. It's going to get to the point where if you're straight, you like to be in a monogamous relationship with one woman, they're going to put you away in a mental institution as being crazed because you want to lead a moral, wholesome life. That's not the way you're supposed to live in America or the world. You're supposed to be depraved, supposed to be demented. You're supposed to be a Satanist. Come on, what's wrong with you normal people? And pretty soon they hope there won't be many normal people left. Then they become normal. And you see how they're doing it right now. They're turning more people into them. I bet you, I'd like to see, this is kind of their evangelism, the way they go out and try to capture souls through this kind of demonic display activities that they get involved in all over the world, not only in Hollywood. And I think that's their form of communicating. That's their way of, and you got to be aware of it, because if you're not aware of it, they might be able to steal your soul away from you, don't you think? I mean, how many of these kids really are thinking in those terms, where they really analyze things? They've got people so hyped up and so, oh boy, you can't be a positive, you can't be a independent thinker if you get caught up in this matrix web that they've created. There's no way in the world, and that's what they want. Just obedient workers and people that don't think for themselves. And pretty soon that's going to be against the law. If you think for yourself, forget it. You're going into an insane asylum. And secondly, we can't have, if you just want to, do something creative on your own, we can't have that. You got to follow what we do and what we tell you to do. And maybe that's where we're all headed, folks. But anyway, we're headed right now to the end of the show. I got to leave, out of time. See you tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.